With very limited exceptions, Iran will continue to be denied access to the world's largest market, and we will maintain powerful sanctions targeting Iran's support for terrorist groups.
Iran will be denied access to the world's most important market and unable to deal in the world's most important currency.
The Obama administration, during the negotiation of the Iran deal, misled the American people. And I think they did so because they were desperate to get a deal.
All right, let's talk about this with our panel. What you were hearing there early on was back in 2015, Treasury officials during the Obama administration and as they were negotiating the deal saying that Iran was not going to get access to key financial markets. Now, Rob Portman, a senator there, has come up with this report, his subcommittee, that it says essentially the Obama administration did grant a license that allowed Iran to access nearly $6 billion. Byron, and a lot of folks say it's not illegal, but they didn't tell us the truth about it.
I guess those statements are no longer operative. I mean, this shows that the Obama administration just flat out lied about this. And the idea was that the administration then seemed desperate to get a deal from Iran. And we know that they gave them all sorts of sanctions relief and billions of dollars. And then they gave them essentially this window in which they had the opportunity to use U.S. financial institutions basically to turn other currencies into dollars or euros. And this is completely against what they were saying. And by the way, if Donald Trump ever needs to say again this was a bad deal, he has one more data point to say so.
Yeah, and apparently, Susan, members of the Obama administration went to some U.S. banks to try to get them to go along with this plan that they had. And we are told, at least in this report, that 2 banks said, no, thank you. These U.S. banks did not want to get involved with it. They knew sanctions were in place, and they were afraid of the optics of it as well.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I think the Iran deal had already been reached at this point, but Iran was complaining that they couldn't get the benefits that they had been promised because this money was parked in a foreign bank and they needed to convert it. So the problem isn't what the administration did; it's the fact that they misrepresented it or they weren't transparent about it, and that in the end, doesn't it always come back to bite you?
Yeah, see, I kind of disagree with that, only insofar as I agree that the deception was bad. But the policy was bad too. I mean, in a lot of ways, this kind of reminds me of the Alec Guinness character, Colonel Nicholson, in Bridge over River Kwai, where he just becomes convinced that we're going to show everybody by doing this great thing, building this bridge for the enemy. The Obama administration came into office with this theory that they could radically transform the Middle East by bringing Iran into the world of nations, in the community of nations, and they pursued this policy in the face of all the facts on the ground, based upon an ideological commitment, and then they bent the truth and bent policy towards fulfilling it. And it was a disastrous policy from the beginning. And one of the reasons we can tell it's a disastrous is they had to lie it into creation to get it passed, and they couldn't even put it before the Senate to be an actual treaty, even though it was a treaty. It was from soup to nuts a disaster.
Well, and there's a former Obama administration official speaking on this, not wanting to put their name on the record, saying this: the specific license was in fulfillment of JCPOA, that's the Iran nuclear deal, commitments to give Iran access to pools of its money held overseas. It was aimed solely to allow the movement of Iran's own funds stranded at an Omani bank into euros at a European bank where Iran could then make use of them. Byron, they did get European banks to eventually agree to this, where U.S. banks would not.
Mm-hmm. But it is the deception of it as well, once they got to it. And here again, this was not something, as Jonas said, that could have gotten through the U.S. Senate. No way that he could do that. So it's not a surprise at all that the next president could completely undo something like this, and again have the ability to say, look, they didn't tell you the truth about this deal. It was a bad deal. They lied to you about it, and now we're finding out what they agreed to.
Okay, let's